Roll call 219 here. And I've got some pretty good news. First of all, the snow's kind of melting for now, which is a plus, and the sun is out. And more importantly, I want to talk about my great state of Indiana. Now, we've had our problems over the years, especially when the Vegas tragedy happened. We had a bill in our legislature that would give us constitutional carry for us Hoosiers. Now, we've seen constitutional carry take place in a lot of different states. Even Montana has gotten into getting constitutional carry. So, Indiana's taking that step to give its citizens their right to defend themselves, which we should always have because of the Second Amendment. So, reading this article that my local police department had put into play about them capturing a violent felon with a handgun and extended magazine, there was a lot of talk about how this really mattered to society, because if he was so violent and he was so out of control, why is he out of jail in the first place? So this even strengthened the position further, for me at least, to convey to my fellow Hoosiers why we need constitutional carry. If you have people, participating in criminal acts or walking around, as they said in this article, and waving a firearm around, I think it's more than ever a precedent to arm society. And I think with having this article, being published the way it was by the police department, only enhanced that further being of able to carry a firearm without a permit. I think it's one of the most crucial things that legislators and politicians could do, is help the populace out and give them a means to protect themselves without being riddled with permits, licensing, like our neighbors in Illinois. So if my fellow Hoosiers don't know, this bill has already been written. It's been sitting on the shelf for years. Right before the Vegas tragedy happened, they were going to put this into committee, and it had huge support for constitutional carry in the state of Indiana. Well, Vegas happened, and they shelved it. And they've shelved it all the way up to this point, so they dusted it off, and they put it into committee, and it has a lot of backing, and it looks like it's going to pass. I think it might be passed in time for 2022, which is a year off. But hey, we're all sitting in our houses anyway. What else? What else are we going to do but have a little bit more of a wait? I don't quite agree with it. I think it should be passed right away. But yet, at least they made an attempt. It's got tons of backing, and it looks like it's going to get passed. So, during that, they shelved it when Vegas happened, and it was never talked about. So, seeing this article and me reinforcing to Hoosiers why they should carry a firearm is basically a great example of why you should, and why this bill should never been shelved. Even after what happened in Vegas, it should have implored politicians to give us this kind of, pro-gun law. We all know criminals are criminals for a reason, and that's why they're named criminals, because they don't abide by any certain laws. They don't. They skirt around it. And this is a prime example of what the police department here in my town, showed as an example of even backing and fortifying why we should have constitutional carry. So I would like to commend, which I don't do often, a lot of the politicians that wrote this bill a while ago and now have pretty much gotten a lot of sponsorship to this bill. It's long coming. It's long overdue. And I just want to say, sometimes the politicians, they're like blind squirrels. They find a nut once in a while. And this is one of those nuts that they found. It should have always been like this in the state of Indiana. There's always been rumblings about it. But after they made the 5-year permit free, it created a ton of problems. People were getting delayed for their permits. They weren't receiving them in time. It created a huge debacle, especially when the CV-19 hit. Places were shut down. they couldn't process permits. It became such a pain in the ass. So by doing this, this skirts and negates the permit process. And it should always be like that, because the last time I've read the Second Amendment, and I can go in my kitchen where it's hanging, it says nothing about permits. But unfortunately, we have to deal with that at the current time. And you say, well, why would you even want a permit? Unfortunately, some states require a permit. They don't have constitutional carry. Now, again, like I mentioned, there's a lot of states that step forward and put forth constitutional carry. In those states, you don't need a permit. As long as you're a law-abiding citizen and you're not a criminal, you can carry. So that's the thing about permits. I've never liked the permit process. I think if your driver's license is good in all 50 states in the union, then your carry permit should be valid in all 50 states of the union, regardless of California, New Jersey, and all those other anti-gun states. It should be like that, but it's not. So getting a permit at this point, I say, is a good thing, especially if the 5-year is free. But I always encourage people just to throw in the extra couple of bucks and get the lifetime permit. In the state of Indiana, there's none of the training and all that jazz that comes about with it. And that's one of the things that a lot of people have to understand. You can go around on YouTube all the time and see all these people that say you must have training. You're this, that, and the other thing without it. But I look at some of the statistics, and most people that defend their lives have never had a lick of training in their life. And we just saw that. A prime example of it, of the 12-year-old, I believe he was 12 years old, that shot somebody that intruded in the house, hurt his grandmother. He shot that person. And I'm sure 12-year-olds aren't taking training courses. So, I understand the concept of training. I think it's a good concept to have, especially if you're a new gun owner, but it's not a huge priority. It's not a huge priority, especially if you look at the laws in your state and the do's and don'ts at carrying a firearm and what are the good processes of it. Not only that, your conceal and carry insurance, if you do wish to get that, will give you a huge lowdown on the do's and don'ts of carrying a firearm. Now, the thing about training that falls into this category is you'll be more proficient with your gun, and I understand that concept. But in the end, giving people the right to carry a firearm, regardless of training and all that stuff, is a God-given right. Back in the day, I didn't see people, cowboys, having training schools to shoot a firearm. No, they were carrying guns when they were, 8 years old. Even some people that are older on YouTube were doing this when they were a child. They were just taught the basic rules of safety with firearms. So, coming back to constitutional carry, I think it was well beyond its time to rear its head in the great state of Indiana, and it's a great pick-me-up with all the talk about the Sleepy Joe administration and his, acts to ban firearms, commonly owned firearms and commonly owned standard capacity magazines. So this is another pick-me-up to let you know that I'm not a big fan of politicians like a lot of people out there, but sometimes they come through. Sometimes they do. Now, whether it's because they want to be reelected again to grasp their power that they have, it still gives us the opportunity to understand that once in a while they'll do something good, but we have to stay on them. We have to stay vigilant, and we have to keep applying pressure to them. We have applied a lot of pressure. Even myself has written Representative Lucas and some of the other sponsors of this bill, and even Joe Donnelly, when he was a senator here, who gave me one of the most awful responses about constitutional carry and talking about the Wild West. Then I responded back to Donnelly at that point and told him it's already like the Wild West. There's criminals running around with guns in the street as is. What makes that any different? If you level the playing field for the common citizen, the common law-abiding citizen, things will change. Criminals will change up their behavior. They'll never stop being criminals, but maybe that thought in their head of this person may have a gun, I don't know if I should continue my criminal ways, and might deter them to that certain point. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons of this that I've been seeing on the internet. I see nothing but pro. I see nothing but a pro to this. It gives people the ability to fight back, to protect themselves, their families, and everything they've worked hard to have. And I don't see a problem with that. That's what this country was founded on way back when the founding fathers started putting this country together. That's why they written the Second Amendment in there, and that's why it is the Second Amendment. So I think Indiana did a good job at doing this. I think this was long coming, and it's about time that they get off their asses, they quit hooting and hollering about gun control, and they give power back to the people. They give them an opportunity to defend themselves. And again, I reference back to the Michigan City Police Department's article about them brazenly running after a violent felon with a handgun that was waving it in the streets like willy-nilly. That's what I'm talking about. Criminals do not follow the laws. The more anti-gun legislation you put forward, the more the Biden administration or whoever, the Maxine Waters, all these people talk about it, criminals will never follow the law. That's why they are labeled criminals. So watching this kind of play out, and me kind of harping on these people, not only me, but a lot of other people that have taken a bigger role in this, a way huger role than I have ever done, is going to, open the eyes of Hoosiers in my state that, look, it's time that we fight back for our rights. It's time to implement Second Amendment culture in our society and stop being afraid of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been a victim of violent crimes more than once. Not only that, I've been robbed outside my house, and the police never caught this man. Not only that, he continued his rampage and did it 5 or 6 more times, and they never caught this fellow. So looking at this just gives even more reinforcement of why we should carry guns, why gun-free zones don't work. If gun-free zones worked, we wouldn't have school killings. We wouldn't have people going into shopping centers and shooting people. It's common sense. And the only reason why these other lawmakers, these anti-gun lawmakers, do this is to take power from the people to make them rely on government. We shouldn't have to rely on government. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil that we have to have in our lives. But we shouldn't have to be stricken to the bounds and the laws that these people make when they don't make sense, because criminals never follow these laws. All it does is restrict the law-abiding citizen and have them jump through hoops. You don't believe me? Look at the state of Illinois. Not only is the Illinois State Police being sued and being, bombarded with their debacle of the FOID card, that they are charging so much money to get one of those cards. That is, again, I can go back in my kitchen and read the Second Amendment. There's nothing that says that we're supposed to have some kind of permit. There's nothing that says that we're supposed to be taxed for our rights. It doesn't make sense. And that's a prime example of why constitutional carry is so great and it's necessary in all 50 states. I'm telling you. It's more of an issue than people think. But when you give the populace a chance to fight against criminal element, it'll make it a lot better. You will see less victims. You will see society turn its head. I know so many other places in this great union that have the means for citizens to defend themselves, and the crime rate has dropped. It hasn't risen. It's dropped, regardless of what some huge media company wants to portray numbers to, even numbers that they probably dig up from the past when these certain laws weren't instituted. They tried to do that kind of, bait and switch. So I'm ecstatic for people of Indiana, the Hoosiers, to embrace this law. Unfortunately, give props to some of these politicians and hope this bill passes more quicker than what is sought out for be in 2022. I think it should be passed now. I think they haven't done a whole lot down there, but this is a chance to pass this law and start moving forward. You know, get this thorn out of all the thighs and all these people that hate firearms, and just move on and start really helping Hoosiers in different aspects of life. So this is a great win, not only for Hoosiers, but for the Second Amendment. Other states are doing it. We should follow suit. Those states have good records when they have this kind of law on the books. And I think even further, we should now focus on red flag laws for the state of Indiana and looking at ways we can repeal it. Ways we can get rid of that law, because red flag laws are even more dangerous than ever before, the way anti-gun politicians want to put forth these type of laws and restructure them to the point where you'll really be walking on eggshells. And that's what politicians' jobs are not to do, is make its populace walk on eggshells and be good little servants. That's not what this is about. This isn't what America is about. So again, we have a long drawn out fight here in the state of Indiana. It can happen. It might happen in your state if it's an anti-gun state. You have to continuously pressure politicians. Again, I'll reference back to Joe Donnelly. When he sent me that letter, I told him flat out that I'm not going to vote for you. I'm going to share your message on social media, and you won't be elected again this round. You will be put into retirement because you're not listening to the populace. Lo and behold, he was voted out of office and he was replaced. When Holcomb came into the position, not only did he freak out about COVID-19, he freaked out to the point where he wanted everybody to be fined for a mask, or if you don't wear a mask, you can't do this, that, and the other thing. Guess what Hoosiers did? They went on his website and they pressured him to calm his rhetoric, that we can take care of ourselves. We can follow basic hygiene skills. We don't need to be told what we're supposed to do like we are children. Lo and behold, guess what? He backed off that position real quick. When you get enough people behind a certain issue, just like anti-gunners do, we can do this in the gun community. We truly can. And this shows that we truly can. That we can tell the politicians what we want as a populace, not what they want. So this is a great win for the state of Indiana. I urge you folks, do not put your head in the sand. Do not think all hopelessness is gone, because you can turn it around. Vet your politicians. Put pressure on them. Organize. Organize in your communities, all the way up to rallies at your capital. Whatever it be, state or county, wherever it rears its ugly head, these anti-gun politicians organize. That's one of the ways you can fight back against tyrannical governors and representatives in your state. It's a long, drawn-out battle. I've known that. I've heard stories from people from California all the way to the East Coast, like New Jersey and New York. I understand the struggle. But when you put your head in the sand and you think all hope is lost, that's when hope is lost. I'd like to thank my old and my new subscribers and just the people that zip through. I greatly appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe my content. Please do that with other people. Help them boost into the algorithm and, kind of make its way up, because they always want to suppress gun talk, gun videos. They always want to do that. So the more you do this, the more you share stuff out, the more you like, or thumb it up or thumb it down, whichever way, as long as you're thumbing people, it'll work out for that person that's creating content. And like always, we'll catch you guys on the next one.